Hey everybody, welcome back to Goshen Prepping. As we see news unfold with Iran and the United States attacking their nuclear areas, we worry about attacks on mainland United States. Not to mention, if other major countries happen to get involved, like China, Russia, etc., will this lead to nuclear war? It's what everybody's talking about. This video is dedicated not toward as far as how to actually prepare for nuclear war. I have an incredible series that details everything you need to do to prepare for that, which I'll link at the end of this. This video is really debunking what a lot of people are saying, and it's weird because here I'm a YouTube channel talking about as far as how to do things better and how to prep with gear. But you'll see in this video, there are some things in gear you do want to get, but certain things, by the way, is going to be a waste of money for you. And as a previous years ago in a past life nuclear expert in the military, I will give you the inside details of every single thing you should get, maybe some things you might want to consider, and things that really, it's just going to be a fear tactic other channels and stuff tell you to get, you don't need. So let's jump right into it. Here are some items, and by the way, I will link all these below in case you want to pick them up, but again, I think you're going to find most of these. I'm going to say, don't buy this. Let's look at the first item. This is the first item I would get. I have this. I love it. It is a GMC 320 Geiger Counter. It tests, look at this, beta, gamma, and X-ray radiation, which is great. It's relatively inexpensive. It is USB rechargeable, so it works with my solar generator, and I absolutely love this. So clearly, if I own it, 2 thumbs up. I would say get this. As far as the price goes, and I know some people on this channel are on a serious budget, and I get that, but this is great. It doesn't do everything for you. It doesn't test for alpha, and it does max out pretty easy, but it will tell if there's some kind of nuclear event. It'll max out quickly and let you know this is not the area you want to be. You need to get out of there. And again, this is not a tutorial video as far as how to react to certain nuclear events, but distance is going to be your best bet when it comes to getting away from radiation. Not shielding like most people think. It's going to be distance. So there's this item, which I recommend, but there's also this item you may want to consider. And I really use the word may. This thing does everything for you. It detects alpha, beta, gamma, and much more sensitive in actually reading radiation in areas. But look at the price on this, $679. It's a lot of money. In fact, you could, for that amount, invest in what's called a scintillator. I don't own this item. And when we're talking about as far as prepping on a budget or putting all your money into a smart area, this is not the area I would put it. But you know what? I'll link it because I know some people like to buy all the gadget and gizmos, and it would be helpful, especially with alpha radiation. But alpha radiation, by the way, it's like you have to be super up close to it. And the only time you have to worry about it is actually if you ingest it. But if you have heavy water, this item will test it for you. The Geiger counter I have won't. So I look at, as far as like areas for watersheds, what's the odds the water coming to my well is going to be, well, alpha contaminated heavy water? Unlikely. Maybe you're in a different area, and that's something you might want to consider. Next up is potassium iodide. In fact, I'm going to show you the Iosat tablets. This is a pack made specifically for nuclear events. Right there, thyroid blocking in a radiation emergency only. But I'm going to show you this right there. We're looking at potassium iodide tablets, 130 milligrams. There's 14 tablets for 14 days, which is the recommended dosage. To let you know, by the way, all it does is it does not block radiation from you. There's over 300 different radioactive isotopes from a nuclear detonation, a nuclear event. This only protects one, radioactive iodine, from affecting your thyroid gland. All it does is doses your body with so much iodine, regular iodine, so that way the radioactive iodine won't have a place to go. Hopefully not anyway. But if you don't have a thyroid, if you're older, check with all the regulations as far as what, doctors say about that, because I'm not your physician specifically. But here's the thing, if you're over a certain age, they don't recommend it anyway. But this particular pack of tablets, $17 for 14 tablets. We're looking over $1 a tablet. Personally, I'd rather buy, which I did, by the way, $23 for 120 tablets. It's the same dosage, the same milligrams. It's the same tablets. So there's a reality check. I highly, yes, 2 thumbs recommend you get some potassium iodide. I keep mine in my Faraday cage. Why? Is it going to be affected by an EMP? No, of course not. But if I have a nuclear emergency, I know right where they're at. So I put them in a bag and keep them there, and they're good to go. I buy the generic ones. It's the same dosage of potassium iodide. But the Iosat ones, I don't know, maybe you like the fancy foiled thing and you want to pay over $1 a tablet for that. Not me. And for the youngsters, if you look at little kids in your family, you can get the iodine liquid drops. Now, again, I'm not telling you the dosage on that. You have to go through my videos on that or simply Google it. This is simply just showing you some of the products. Now let's shift gears for just a moment, because I talked about blocking radiation is not as easy as you would think. When you talk about like shielding off your house, we're talking about a foot of lead in reality. We're talking about feet of earth, feet of concrete. It's not an easy thing. Distance from the radiation is the key. So I'm going to go ahead and dispel one myth right now. When people look at like a nuclear suit, remember Doc Brown from Back to the Future? He comes out holding the radiation. He's wearing that really cool yellow suit. It did nothing for him. These suits do not block radiation. Keep that in mind, because that's probably the number one wives' tale I find on this channel or this particular video is people think that these huge hazmat suits block radiation. They don't. I mean, the respirator, that's a different story, but the actual suit does not. So if you want to have a suit, it's really good for keeping the radioactive material off of you. So let's say you're stuck outside and some fallout's coming down on you. That's really bad. The radiation's coming right through your suit and getting you. But all you have to do is quickly, once you get inside, take off that suit and your body's going to be clean. That's what it's there for. I mean, we do have like chemical and stuff too, but this video is specifically toward radiation. So should we get a suit? This baby right here is the suit I wore when I was in the military. A MIRA Safety MOPP 1 CBRN protective suit. Outstanding. It's a chemical resistant coverall, does not block radiation, but it's flame retardant. And the reason this is so expensive is because it's super thick. By the way, this price does not include this mask, but it's super thick and it makes it so it does not tear very easy at all. But if you're dead set on getting a suit of some sort, again, does not include the mask. Here's another MIRA safety suit. This one does practically the same thing for you. It's specifically hazmat like firefighters wear, and it's a fraction of the price. Again, neither one of these suits will block radiation, but it will make it so, for example, you're caught out in some type of radioactive fallout area, you can pull the suit off, which decontaminates you quickly. It's your best bet to never go out into fallout anyway. Stay far away from it. But I guess if you want to, if you need to go out there and catch your dog, whatever, this suit will not stop the radiation. You will get a dose of potentially lethal radiation while you're out there, but at least it keeps it off of you. If you're wearing the regular clothes and fallout, you're going to have to strip off all the clothes, keep them outside, get a really hardcore shower just to make sure you get all that material off of you. And on that same note, if you do want to pick up a gas mask, here is a MIRA Safety. MIRA is awesome, by the way. MIRA Safety certified CBRN full face respiratory gas mask. It is good to go. $250, and even has a drinking system. So while you're out enjoying your fallout day, you can have something to drink. I'm not endorsing getting a mask. If you want to get that whole suit, it's up to you. I don't own one. I have no interest in going out and fallout at all. I mean, if there's kids out there, I'll have to risk it. It doesn't block radiation at all. I'll just shower after very quickly. And the mask, it's limited what it can do. Because I want you to understand there's really two types of nuclear scenarios or events. A nuclear detonation, when it goes off, that huge mushroom cloud in the sky makes glass-like fallout that comes down. Practically speaking, you're not going to breathe that in anyway. But if you're near the blast and there's like ash and soot coming from the blast, that's a different story. Or if you're near a nuclear power plant that was sabotaged and blows up or melts down, whatever, and there's some of that ash and soot around, yes, that's what these masks are for. But for fallout, you know, when we look at the older guidelines, I mean, they're starting to change a little bit. I think they're really trying to get people even more prepared, I guess. But the guidelines for decades was you don't even need a mask. But you can buy this mask for $248. And I'll be honest with you, I do own a mask. MIRA masks are fantastic, and they're actually really good for a lot of things, not just nuclear. Or you can possibly get this mask as well. This is only $47. And even though this is actually a respirator for gases, vapors, dust, it may not be as heavy duty, but it will still do the same thing if we're looking at some type of nuclear fallout. This, you know, again, the fallout not itself, but actual the ash and stuff, this will do the job for you. But notice both of these masks have this canister here, and the canister for this mask is only $21. If we go back to this mask, ooh, it's a NATO type canister, and these NATO filters are not cheap, $79, and that mask will use one or two of these. So every time you light them off, $160 a pop. And look at this, please don't be confused. It says it has a long 20-year shelf life. Yeah, that's true when it's not been activated, but once you activate it, now things have changed. It only lasts so many hours. And people think when they get these gas masks, oh, I've got a canister, it's good forever, right? Maybe on the shelf, but once you activate it, they're disposable. That's why the military has these. The military can afford having tons of these canisters everywhere. You may not be able to. So can you imagine buying the mask and you're like, wait a second, I have to have a whole bunch of filters to go along with it? Exactly. So the mask is not at all what you think it is. It does help you, especially when you're talking about like chemical type events, but in nuclear, not necessarily even necessary, but even more so, super expensive, no matter which mask you buy. But a couple odds and ends of things you might want to get right here are some protective gloves. They're chemical resistant. Again, if you pick up any type of radioactive stuff, let's say your dog is outside and you don't have a suit, at least put this on, grab the dog and keep the radiation particles off of you. They're kind of expensive, but these type of gloves will work in that situation. However, I would certainly seriously consider getting these little booties right here. $19 for a 25 pair. Because if you do have to walk out into some radiation, again, some fallout, these will not stop the radiation. But since we're looking at a layer of fallout on the ground, it will stop it from getting on your clothes. So these booties make sense. Not very expensive. We'll keep the fallout off your clothes, strip your clothes off, strip these booties and throw them away. You're good to go. All right, so that's protecting you, practically speaking, from fallout or a nuclear event. We also have to protect our equipment because a nuclear event will also lead to, or in some cases, that's what we're protected from anyways, an EMP. You want to protect your electronic devices. There's two things I want to talk about this. Number one, any electronic devices like your cell phone that's not plugged in can actually still survive. In fact, probably will. 95% of cars, even modern cars, will still run after an EMP event, unlike what most people think. They put out a lot of fear and stuff saying that doesn't happen. That's not the case at all. Cars will still run. Even if you're driving down the road, your car will probably stall out, but 95% of them will start right back up again. The radio may not work, or possibly the turn signal, but the cars themselves will still run. 95%. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about that. And also like protecting your home, because if we're talking about just fallout, it's not even like mandatory you put plastic and stuff over your windows. If we're talking about ash and soot from the actual nuclear event or like a nuclear power plant destruction, yeah. So I'm not going to link plastic and duct tape. Of course, you're going to want to have plastic and duct tape, thicker plastic, by the way. Just get tons of it in lots of rolls and store it away in case this ever happens, and you'll be good to go. Now, one more thing, when we talk about pacemakers, maybe you have a pacemaker, this is going to dispel some myths. If people are worried about this, oh, nuclear event, EMP, my pacemaker is going to fry. That's not the case at all. All studies conclusively, absolutely show that your pacemaker will be 100% fine. You don't have to worry about this. Now, if you have small devices or even big devices plugged in the wall, that's a different story. I mean, maybe your pacemaker is plugged in the... No, I'm just kidding. But you want to make sure those devices are protected, and that's why a Faraday cage comes into play. All you need is a simple bucket like this. Again, I'll link it below, but you can get these anywhere. A 6-gallon rust-proof galvanized steel bucket. Put your devices inside of here. We'll talk about that in just a little bit more in a second. But you do have to take some other precautions with these, and let's look at that. For example, you got to make sure electronic devices don't touch the metal wall of that bucket. And I use these very thick, extra thick freezer bags, and I just keep all my devices in those. A lot of people line their entire bucket with like cardboard or rubber, etc., which is fine. To each their own. As long as the device is not touching the metal wall and there's some kind of insulator, these very thick freezer bags will easily do that job for you. And as an extra precaution, you might want to pick up some of this aluminum foil tape. I mean, here's 6-pack for $60. You don't have to buy that money, obviously. But there's an excellent chance you don't even need the tape if the seal on the top of the can is good enough. Real quick test, put a cell phone in there, put this lid on, try to call it. If it doesn't ring, it's actually good enough. That is a real legitimate test that actually works. But to be on the safe side, you can get some of this aluminum tape. However, there's one more item I want to show you. There could be so many things you put in the cage. I would at least get a crank solar radio. I really stress the solar part. Cranking these things is a pain in the keister. I've shown this green radio on this channel numerous times. We love this radio. We actually use it all the time. My kids do. Listen to some music in the background. It's nice, and it actually has the stations because if there is a nuclear event, and I know our government isn't like the best when it comes to getting people prepared into safety, but you're going to want to have this information through radio, and be able to have something like this is essential. Now, obviously, we can go through all the different things like stockpiling food and water and gear. Obviously, we're preppers, and I don't need to make a super long video with all that stuff on there. I just want to go ahead and show you some of the things you might want to consider getting. And again, I'll link them all below. And if you do click on the link, as Amazon affiliates, we get a little portion. Your price doesn't change, but it helps us out as a channel. And of course, I put all this information out for you for free. We always appreciate any contributions through Amazon. You don't have to pay anything, and we say thank you for that. All right, what else would you add to the list? What would you add to your Faraday cage besides like your phone and such? Put it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.